Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to wait about a minute or two just for some more people to settle in, and then we'll begin the webinar. All right, well, I think we can get started. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Hastings, and I'm the HFMA Region 2 Webinar Chair representing our Rochester chapter. I'd like to first thank our sponsors for today's presentation. The presentation is Re-Energizing Your Accounts Receivable, which is presented by Andrew Politi from Simon's Agency. The presentation will discuss key areas where organizations can improve upon their existing AR policies and procedures by specifically addressing the 90-day collection cycle and obtaining permission for communicating with patients effectively through their desired electronic and traditional channels. I would like to note that Simon's Agency is an HFMA peer-reviewed company on the short list for debt collection. Andrew Politi brings over 35 years of experience working within the credit and collection industries. He spent 10 years in the banking industry handling the credit and collections departments, as well as utilizing third-party collections, working with collection agencies and attorneys. He spent the last 25 years working with national collection agencies as a sales executive and trainer. He's given numerous talks in healthcare arena over that time on such topics as AR management, hiring the right agencies, when to utilize third-party influence, and making payment arrangements. Please join me in welcoming Andrew from Simon's Agency.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody from HFMA Region 2 for joining us today, and I feel honored, and I appreciate everybody in attendance. And that was a very nice intro. Thank you, Andrew. And again, just a little bit about myself, as he stated, just to reiterate, I did start my career in banking, and where I handled credit and collections for both consumer and commercial loans. And I hired collection agencies. And since for the last 25 years plus, I've been consulting the healthcare industry as a sales executive for collection agencies and advising them and giving talks on accounts receivable, payment arrangements, and the alike. So without further introductions, I'd like to start our seminar today, our webinar, Re-Energizing Your Accounts Receivable. I'm going to be covering some things as collection strategy, things that you can do in your organizations for putting in strategies and things in place. I'm going to talk about negotiating payments. I'm sure you've all had the problem of people going on payment arrangements, but there's never adhering to them, or at least long enough. And we're going to go over some of those programs. We're going to talk about pre-collect. I'm sure you've all heard the buzzwords, pre-collect, early out. We're going to tell you how that's impacting the industry. And at the end, I'm going to do a little bit about how to choose the right collection agency, which is, I think, a real important topic. We're going to guide you through that process about choosing their agencies as right for you, the provider. And at the very end, we're going to do a question and answer. And again, you're going to have the dialogue box. I'm going to ask you to hold all your questions to the end. And as the questions come through, we'll address them and read them out loud one by one. And at the very end, we do have a short survey. So if you could take the time and fill it out, I appreciate it. It really helps us out. So let's get started. Collection Strategy 101. When is it time to send accounts to collections? Everybody's been toying with this for years and contemplating this and deciding when is the best time to turn somebody over to collections. Well, remember one thing about accounts that are in past due. They are a receivable, and a receivable is an asset that is owned by you, the provider, okay? Anytime somebody creates a receivable because they have an account outstanding with you, that is an asset. You have the right to do with that asset as you wish. You can place it with a collection agency, place it with an attorney, you can write it off, you can sell it, as there's debt buyers out there that buy debt, you can do nothing. Okay, but remember one thing, a receivable is an asset. It is owned by you, the provider, and you can do with it as you wish. So the time that's involved in sending somebody to collections is what we're going to get into now. And it's going to address something that we call the 90-day collection cycle. Okay, so, how long should you put somebody into collections? Like I said, people have been agonizing this for years. When is the best time? And that's really how some of the things like pre-collect, early out has come out. Do you put them in sooner, later? What is the ideal time to put them in collections? Well, the American Collectors Association, who we're a part of, did some studies over the years. And they determined that 92% of the American population pays their bills or makes arrangements to pay their bills in the first 90 days. So we've come up with the 90-day collection cycle for our clients that we advise and consult on how to handle the collections and when to put them in. So here's how the 90-day cycle is going to work. Insurance will pay day one. Okay, you're going to get the insurance payment. You do your filing. You fight with the insurance companies, and they're eventually going to pay. Now, most of you are probably on a 30-day billing cycle where everybody gets billed every 30 days. So the first bill will go out to the patient after 30 days. Good news, insurance paid X. You only owe this. Here's your bill. And a majority of your people are going to pay at the 30-day period. But when you do your billing again in another 30 days, you're going to realize that some people didn't pay the first bill. So what are those accounts? Those accounts are literally past due, and they are because they never paid on the first bill. And I'm sure on the first bill, and we'll go over that a little bit, you have a time frame on there for them to pay. Either they have to pay in 10 days, 15 days, or you've given them an actual due date of when the bill is due by. And if they didn't pay it by the time you're ready to bill again, that account is past due. So you notice that that is in red and in bold letters. Hopefully your software provider can put that on your bills past due, because they've done some studies over the years through consulting companies that found that red is a very powerful color to get people to open up, and they respond quicker to it. So now you wait another 30 days before your next billing cycle goes out, and you realize some of those past dues have not paid. So now what is it? Now you could send out another notice, okay, but we found out is that you've already sent out the past due notice. The only thing left is a final notice. And again, that is in red, and it's in bold letters, and it's printed right on the bill. Because it's now gone through your 90-day cycle. Insurance pays, day one, you wait, you bill the insurance, the patient skips a payment, so he's past due. They skip that one. The only thing left now is a final notice, okay? And usually on there, you're going to write something like, you have 10 days or you have 15 days to pay the bill, or you will be subject to being sent to collections or something to that nature. Okay, so you're going to see that on there, okay? So day 100 really is going to be the point at which now the determination is, you've gotten 10 days, you're giving them 10 days to pay their bill. What do you do with it? They should be in collections, okay? And we always have a statement, and that is that if you can't think of a reason why somebody shouldn't be in collections, then they should be, okay? You take out all the ones you don't want to put in, somebody who's an employee, somebody who's a friend of the CEO's or something like that. You can pill out the people, somebody's 85 years old. You can pill out the people you don't want to put in collections. But if you can't think of a reason why they shouldn't be in collections, then they should be, and that should be the rule. So that is where we came up with the 90-day collection cycle. Part of it was the statistics done by the ACA, and also we found out that, this puts some continuity to your bills, okay? You're just not sending them out randomly. At least now you have a pattern to it, and now you can stick to the pattern. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. The Law of Diminishing Returns. The graph that's on your screen that you have in front of you shows that from 0 to 30 days, if you look to the left now with the high percentage, is when the highest percentage you have of collecting your money. As the days go to the right, all the way up to 420, you notice that your percentage of collections is going down. And there's a reason for that, okay? And that is that when you, the provider, give care to the patient, you're the best person they ever did, doctor they've ever been to, they feel great, you helped them, you cured them, they've never felt better, that's the time to get your money, okay? You'll notice, and I'm sure in all your organizations, you've noticed that contacting somebody 6 months down the road, suddenly there's complaints. And we call that complaints increase with time, okay? You're no longer the best doctor they've ever seen. You're no longer the best facility. They have complaints. I had to see somebody else. I had to get a second opinion. Why? Because you're in the service industry. And going 6 months down the road, there's no more incentive to pay the bill, okay? So we have something that you can write down and always take this with you. And that is that when you're dealing with delinquency, time is never on your side, okay? Because the time to get your money is as soon as possible. And that's why the American Collectors Association ties in with their statistics. The 90-day period. So if you look at 0 to 90 days on here, that is your highest percentage and opportunity of collecting money, and it starts to go down drastically after that. That's what we call the law of diminishing returns, okay? Again, remember, time is never on your side when dealing with delinquency. You have to address it and attack it as soon as possible. The longer it goes, the less chance you have of collecting your money, and your receivables, your AR, is going to go up. It's invariable. And I'm sure you've all been through it, and you know it. Calling somebody at 6 months, they have a lot of complaints. Talking to somebody at 30 days or right while they're in the office, they don't have any complaints. They loved you. You were great. You cured them. That's the time to get your money. Okay. Okay. Now, when do you bypass the cycle? Okay. Can you bypass the cycle? Yes, you can. And here's some of the reasons why you would bypass the 90-day cycle and not wait to that 100th day to put somebody in collections. Okay. If somebody calls you on the phone, you send out all your notices, somebody gets your past due notice. Okay. And they call you on the phone. This could be the person there screaming at you on the phone saying that, and they're sending you a message or telling you directly, I have no intentions of paying this bill. Okay. I am not going to pay this bill. Do not bill me again. They slam the phone down. They tell you to stick it in your ear. I'm not paying the bill. Okay. Do you have to wait now 90 days or 30 more days and continue doing your billing process? No, you don't. Remember, as we stated, a receivable is an asset. You can do with it as you wish, okay? You don't have to complete the 90-day cycle. In fact, you're putting yourselves a little bit at risk. If somebody's literally telling you, please do not bill me anymore, I have no intentions of paying this, and you attempt to bill them again or demand money again, you could be borderlining on harassment, and that's what you don't want to do and create a conflict with the patient, okay? They send you a message and tell you they're not going to pay it, not a problem. Say, have a nice day, hang up the phone, get them ready to package it up and send them into collections because they literally told you they're not going to pay it. Don't think by sending them another bill that they're going to change their mind. They're not. The only thing that's going to cause is another irate caller calling you up and screaming and complaining, all right, where they really sent the message the first time. So it could be anywhere in that 90-day cycle, okay? And the reason it's created is that most of the people that go through that cycle are the ones you never hear from. They never call your office. If you tried to call them, you got their voicemail. They never returned a call. You've never heard from them at all. So it's got to go through some system. So you created that 90-day cycle system. It went through the whole thing. If somewhere in there changes where they call you up and decide they want to pay, fine. You take the payment, you process it, you move along. If they call you up and tell you, I'm not going to pay, okay, and please don't bill me anymore, do not call me anymore, put them in collections. You don't have to wait. Don't waste the mailing, the time, the energy, because they've already told you they're not going to pay it, okay? Don't think that they're going to change their mind because you sent out another notice or something. It's just not going to happen. Okay, so let's get into what I call making effective payment arrangements. And I think this is a key area for most providers out there that they wind up in collections because they were on a payment arrangement and either was broken or they never adhere to it, and that seems to be a problem. And some of them always ask, why are, the patients breaking their promises? So we're going to share with you a little bit of things that we do, okay, that prevents patients from breaking promises as much as they are now. Not saying that they won't, but this maybe eliminates some of the problem. And one of the things you want to look at is that never ask for money from people, okay, in terms of affordability. And here's what I mean by this, okay? In the art of negotiations, you're going to need somebody, all right, you're going to have to call them up and you're going to have to ask for money, okay? So we have a saying here, and you can jot these down, okay, if you want, as you see them on the screen. It'll be up for a little while, okay? We have a little saying on how to ask for money. So today's not Friday, but let's just assume today's Friday or Thursday. Today being Thursday, how much time do you need to pay the balance of $312.82 in full? Now, I've done a few things with that statement. One is I created a sense of urgency by saying today is, okay? And then I put in there, how much time do you need? Now I'm going to address that in a second. And then I reiterate the balance, the complete balance, and I always say in full, okay? And there's a reason why there's a zipper there. And we're going to get into that also in a second, okay? Well, it says here, the next person who speaks loses, okay? And this is very important because when you're dealing with time, when you ask somebody, how much time do you need? Okay, the first thing they're going to think about is, when do I get paid next? Now, if you all think about it for 1 second, if the question was posed to you, how much time do you need to pay this? The first thing you're usually going to think about is not how much you can afford, it's when do I get paid next? Well, I get paid every 2 weeks. I get my commission check at the end of the month. I get paid every week. And Fridays is payday. You start thinking really quick. Now, most people cannot divide faster than 3 when put on the spot in their head. Okay, and that's just a rule of thumb. Unless you happen to get an engineer on the phone, well, then all bets are off. Okay, but usually something like this, $312, they can figure out in their head, okay, well, let's see, 3, it's $100 a month. I'm going to need 3 months, and they'll probably take care of the $12.82 in the last payment. But they're going to divide that very quickly and make a payment arrangement of, 3 months of $100 a month. Okay, this is where the patient is putting themselves on the payment plan. Okay, you didn't force it upon them; they put themselves on. This is something that they came up with. Okay, and the reason we say next person loses is that 3 seconds of silence on the phone is going to sound like an eternity, but they're going to have to respond if you're quiet. You pose the question to them. Today being Friday, how much time do you need to pay the balance of $312.82 in full? Okay. There's a statement that we go by. People afford what they want when they want it. Okay. And that's why we say the law of diminishing returns. Complaints increase with time. When you feel good, that's when they want to pay. 6 months down the road is not when they want to pay. People pay what they want when they want it, okay? The person, if you ask somebody how much they can afford, what do you think they're going to tell you? $5 a month, $10 a month, right? They always think in lowest common denominator. And what you want to avoid is a confrontation with your patient. So if you were to ask the question the other way, the person says, I can't afford that. And invariably, most of your staff, usually, not all the time, unless you've taken my seminar in the past, usually will say, how much can you afford? And they will usually say $10 a month, okay? And now you've got a problem if you don't accept it, all right? You would just assume that the patient was honest with you. He was honest and told you he couldn't afford it. He was honest and told you how much he can afford. Now you're saying that's not good enough, okay? And you can see the problem that's arising already, okay? And normally, what are they going to tell you? Well, that's all I got, take it or leave it, right? And then all of a sudden, you got this battle going on. You need a certain amount of money. You need this up front. And all of a sudden now you created a confrontation, you're butting heads, and you're not going to go anywhere. And probably he's going to say, this is what I can afford, take it or leave it, and I'm going to hang up the phone. And he might even tell you, well, by law, you have to accept my $10 a month, as long as I make an attempt to pay it. And by the way, there is no such law on the books. And I've done some seminars and I've asked that question, And there are still some providers out there and facilities that say, I asked the question, how much by law do you legally have to accept from somebody if they want to pay this bill? And there's people out there say, well, $5, $10, whatever they're sending in. There is no law. There is no law in the books that says you have to accept right now whatever the patient is paying you, okay? You can accept nothing but the balance in full if you choose not to, okay? But again, write this down, and if you want to put it on, when your staff is calling on it, have this in front of them, put that on there and memorize it after a while. Repeat the day of the week that you're calling on, today being whatever day it is. How much time do you need to pay the balance? Reiterate the balance and say in full, and then very important, be quiet. Wait for the patient to respond. Now, if they come up with some, ridiculous response or something, you can say, no, seriously, Mr. Jones, today being Friday, how much time do you need? And then repeat it one more time, okay? And we usually find out what you're going to do in this instance is you're going to determine one thing and how you're going to be successful. You're going to determine what you have in front of you, and that is that you have two types of patients, and we all know what they are, right? The two types are ones that pay and ones that don't, okay? By doing this with somebody, you're going to determine a payer from a not payer, okay? So, and that's how you can measure your success. Do you make two piles every day of all the people that call in and all the phone calls and all the patients or all the phone calls you make, and if you can separate the payers from the not payers, you were successful. The payers are easy. Take their credit card, whatever, debit their checking account, you do whatever you can, they come in, they pay, they make arrangements. The ones that say, stick it in your ear, I'm not paying it, boom, that's a non-payer, and you're going to package all up the non-payers to go off the collections. Can be a little hard sometimes because there are some disguised no's out there, right? Some people you think are a yes, but they're really a no. And what are those? When you hear things like, I will pay you when, I will pay you as soon as. These people are stalling for time. They have no intentions of paying you, and they're trying to just buy their time. Those are disguised no's. So we try to eliminate them as much as we can. So I implore you out there, try this statement, see how your staff likes it, see how it works. And I always say to somebody, when I do a seminar and I have a standing invitation, a dinner invitation, I will say, if somebody out there, if you ask them in this frame of mind, how much time do you need to pay the $312, and they calculate in their head, well, if I want to pay $5 a month, it's going to take me 60 months, and they come back and say, I need 5 years, dinner is on me, because nobody will think that way, okay? They'll never say and make that reverse decision, okay? So let's move on to your willing payers, people that are willing to pay, and they're hurting. So as you can see by the hand, the person may be drowning, they're looking for help, they're looking for somebody to help them out, okay? You want to be able to help the people that want to pay. So the person who tells you to stick it in your ear, I have no intentions of paying the bill, fine. Say thank you very much, have a nice day, hang up the call, get ready to move on, put them in collections. The person that's on the phone with you, that's trying to make arrangements, that's the person you want to spend some time with. And this is where we call, you've got to listen to your patients. Okay, we call it the art of effective listening. And it's some of the seminars that we send our collectors to, okay? There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is involuntary, listening is voluntary. Somewhere during the conversation, these patients are going to tell you something very important, okay? Could have been secondary insurance, could have been the same insurance, but an out-of-state version of it like Blue Cross Blue Shield has, okay? And they just told you Blue Cross Blue Shield, they didn't tell you where their spouse was actually employed by and what state, okay? They might tell you a host of things, okay? But have everything to your availability to help that willing payer. Credit cards, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, whatever you can take, okay? Debit their checking account. Yes, I know there's fees involved and it's a little bit costly, but unfortunately what we call is you don't want money walking out the door, okay? Do not forego a payment that patient wants to pay because, American Express is charging 2 or 3 basis points, okay, on that. You're going to have to factor it in, okay? But you want to help the people that are willing to pay, okay? And you do that by listening to them. Find out where they are, what their situation is. You got to remember that when you're dealing with patients, and you know this, okay, the conversations are longer. These people are either hurting, they something chronic, they may have lost a loved one themselves, and they're trying to deal with all this. We always say, bad things happen to good people. I mean, again, nobody is intentionally running up this medical debt. No one decides, they wake up in the morning, I think I'm going to have gallbladder surgery. It doesn't happen. Okay, it's when they get a severe pain, they rush to the emergency room, they realize that their gallbladder taken out. They weren't prepared for it. It's not like a credit card debt where it was a voluntary purchase, something you intentionally did. Okay, those conversations are a lot easier. You're dealing with one, insurance here, you're dealing with sick people. Okay, so remember that and give them every opportunity and give them all the help that you can give them and put them at their availability to help them so that you can deal with them. It's good for PR. It's good for that they want to come to you. Good news always travels fast. Okay, if they like the way you help them out and you work with them, again, good news travels fast. All right, let's move on a little bit. Okay, and I'm sure you've all had this. How do you deal with an irate caller? Okay. You're going to get people that are, one, upset or angry just because you put them in collections. And they're going to call you up and say, you put me in collections, how dare you? Okay, well, I know what you want to say. You want to say, well, we send you 4 notices, you didn't pay the bill, we had no other choice but put you in collections, so, why are you upset? But I know you're not going to say that, and you can't do that, but that's what you're thinking. But the person is going to be irate anyway, okay? These people are going to be upset, okay? So the one thing you want to do is do not try to over scream them. Do not try to get louder than them. Do not try to butt heads with them, okay? It's like try to fight fire with fire. You're aggravating each other. They're yelling. If you try to yell and over scream over them, okay, it's never going to work, okay? And we're a big advocate. Never butt heads with a patient, okay? You can agree with them as much as possible. You can hear their side of the story. Let them talk. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not an advocate. I mean, as soon as you hear profanity or as soon as you hear abuse on the phone, end it right away. I don't believe your staff needs to be a party to that, and they obviously don't get paid enough to take abuse from somebody, okay? But talk, let them finish, let them calm down, and then address the situation. We said that these phone calls are going to be longer anyway just because it's healthcare and their patients. Now they're upset. Let them vent. Let them come out a little bit, okay? When they've calmed down on the phone, now you can deal with it. And if you understand they're irate, and we've all been in this situation, again, where, you've called up a company in your life, a customer service, because you ordered something that was no good, or you ordered something that came in wrong or bad, and you're trying to plead your case. No one's, and you can tell that you've told your entire story to the person, and you can tell by their answer, they haven't listened to a word you said, and that infuriates people. And it's human nature, You don't know where to turn. You're like at wit's end. It's like almost like road rage. I mean, you're getting in there and you're saying, I went through this whole spiel. I told you everything. You haven't listened to a word I say. You're not helping me, and you're supposed to be customer service. Okay, so let the person, have their moment. They're going to vent a little bit. They're going to get upset. Okay. Again, you want to listen to them. When they're all done, they may say something very important. Okay. Let them calm down. Okay. And the more calm you are will bring them down. If you start yelling because they're yelling, they're going to try to get louder to be heard. And if you try to get a little louder, they're going to get louder. If you remain calm and stay calm and talk softer, they eventually will come down to that. And again, if they're becoming abusive or becoming profanity, you end the call. I don't believe in it. But let them vent for a minute or two. Let them calm down, and then address the situation and try to work with them. Okay, you'd be surprised that a lot of the irate callers, by the end of the call, turn into payments. They really do. Okay, they want to be heard, and maybe they needed an explanation. They wanted to get it off their system. Like I said, these conversations are a little longer than most. Okay, but never deal with it by getting over angry, because what's going to happen is, if you get irate or your staff person gets irate, by the time this call is done, they're going to need at least a 20-minute break. And the next person that calls up that is nicer on the phone, maybe just a little bit upset, you just dealt with an irate caller. If you haven't calmed down enough, that conversation is not going to go well. So again, you don't want your employees to burn out. This is something that you don't want them to do. And you don't want them obviously yelling and screaming back at the patient. So never handle an irate caller by being more irate or louder than they are. They'll calm down eventually, and you'll be able to talk and listen to reason. It works. I've trained people on it, how to do it. I've had people be irate on the phone with me and role playing, and eventually you'll get them to calm down. And if they don't, and they want to end the call, okay, they end the call. You've already determined then they're a non-payer. Again, you were successful. This person was irate. They slammed the phone down. Now they go into the pile that goes off to the collection agency. Not a problem there. Okay, let's move on a little bit. Okay, pre-collections or early out. I'm sure you've heard this. And the reason why this has come about is because, let's face it, these people sometimes need reminders, okay, to pay their bills. And you don't want to actually put them in collections. And they want reminders or they want something happen, and you want to avoid a small problem before it becomes a big problem. So the way this came out is that when the account is still in the past due status, and again, there's a difference between past due and a delinquent account, okay, and you got to make that determination, okay? The past due account is not in default. It's not really delinquent. It's not really ready yet to be sent to a collection agency. But how do you get them to pay? Remember the law of diminishing returns? The longer they go without paying, okay, complaints increase with time, the less chance you have of getting your money. So the idea that came about with early out or pre-collections is to have people start calling them sooner in the cycle. And it's a very soft collections, and it deals with reminder calls, okay? And literally what you're doing is you're hiring companies, like ours, and agencies out there that do pre-collections, is really what you're doing is you're renting their dialer from them. The dialers today with technology can call thousands of accounts per minute. They can reach so many more people than you can, okay? If they get their reminder calls, they're more likely to pay the bill or make arrangements or find out if they have a problem or a situation where that little problem is little now because you caught it early in the cycle. But if it's later in the cycle, it becomes a big problem, and they're going to wind up in collections. And the other thing you got to realize, too, is that most companies, okay, charge a lot less to put an account in pre-collections, okay, because it's still early in the cycle, than it is by putting them in down the road when it becomes bad debt collections. So what pre-collections does for your organization is that, one, it reduces your days in accounts receivable, okay? If you can get to all these people while they're still in the 30, 60, 90-day category, okay, you've reduced your number of days, okay? And it's a lot easier for them to move through the cycle once you get a hold of them. You'll either prevent them from going any further or clear it up. Again, using the law of diminishing returns, okay, it is your advantage to have them pay sooner than spinning your wheels towards the end. Why? If let's say they're going to pay, okay, when it becomes a bad debt collections, okay, if you wait the whole, 90 days, 100 days, you put them in collections, it takes the agency 3 or 4 months by the time you finally get them on the phone, you finally get them to pay, okay, you're looking at 6 to 9 months down the road, you got your money. But with pre-collections, if you got to them early, you would have got your money sooner, okay? So present value of your money, talk about thousands of accounts, you're talking about a lot of money, okay? And again, you're limiting your back-end exposure to higher collection fees. Most of these pre-collection fees are somewhat less than half of what you're going to be paying if it was in bad debt collections. Again, it's still done as a contingency basis, but you're paying a lot less. So, and that's what you want. You're trying to increase revenue for your company, so put them in as early as you can, get a better rate on it, get them early in the cycle, and identify small problems before they become big problems, okay? Second thing is if your agency is going to process all the credit cards, you're going to reduce your credit card processing. And with the complaints of all the money that credit cards charge today, the merchants, okay, the less you have to run through there. If the agency is doing it for you, you reduce your fees there. You reduce postage because it's less mail you have to send out. Because a lot of times the pre-collect will do the mailing for you. They'll do their own notices. All you have to do is that first one before you send them in. You can reduce your man hours, and you can put those man hours on something more important for you, which is insurance, right? Making sure that things are timely filed, things are coded properly, making sure that everything is being done on the back end. So you can put your man hours to better use, okay? You can reduce your costs, your postage and your credit card processing. You can get a cheaper rate, okay? You're going to collect your money at a less rate than you are if it was a bad debt collections. You're getting your money earlier in the cycle. You're reducing your days in receivables, and you're going back to doing what you do best, taking care of patients, making them better, making them well, and doing what you can do. So Precollections is here. It's going to stick around for a while. We do it, and a lot of companies do it. Whether it's called early out or Precollections, it's almost the same. It's semantics after a while. But it's getting the account early in the cycle, and it's really during that 90-day cycle is when the agency has it. They're trying to make these reminder calls. They're soft calls. They're not real hard collection calls because they're not really delinquent yet, and they're still in that past due status. Okay. Let's move on a little bit. We spend a little time here. This is choosing the right agency. Okay. What you want to do is make sure that when you're choosing the agency that's right for your organization is to go through this whole process. And we're going to go around the circle here, and I'm going to go over each and every point that I bring out, is teaching you how to find an agency that is correct for you. Okay. So one, take a look at your organization and how big it is. Meaning that if you used an agency in the past, you know about how many accounts you're sending to collections, either weekly, daily, monthly, however you do it, okay? If your agency can handle that, you'll know by a couple of questions in an interview process. Let's just say you're turning over 1,000 accounts per month, or let's say per day. And the most your agency has ever handled on their biggest client is 1,000 accounts per month, and you're turning over 1,000 a day. That agency is not going to be able to handle your volume right off the start. Now, eventually they either have to ramp up to it, hire more people, but they're just not close enough right now. You're really at a far end of the spectrum. You need an agency that can handle your volume. Consequently, you might be on the other end of it. You might have only 100 accounts to turn over a day, and the agency is used to handling thousands. Now, are you too small for them, or you feel you're going to get lost in the shuffle? You might be, because you're not big enough for them. Okay, so again, when you're looking at a company and go through this process, one, you want to look at, can they handle the volume you're turning over? And by handling your volume, that means a couple of things. One is, besides just being able to call and collect, are they given the customer service level that you're requiring? Can they do the right amount of skip tracing? I don't mean can they just handle it and they're going to skim off the top, okay, and just collect the easy ones. Are they going to do skip tracing? Are they going to do all the necessary things? Are they going to report to the bureaus if they have to? Are they going to be doing all the right steps, okay, besides just handle your volume? Are they going to be able to track and report for you on a timely fashion? So there's more than just the collection aspect, but make sure the organization that you are looking at can handle that type of volume. All right, let's move down the circle. Okay, transparency. One of the things you want to look at is the ease of doing business, okay, with the agency, okay? How easy is it to make placements? You want to make sure that it's not a headache for you. Did they take that headache away? Make it as easy as possible for you to turn over placements, okay? Because let's face it, there's a lot of things going on over there. You have a lot of, important things that are happening, a lot of projects that are coming up, okay? You don't want to spend an awful lot of time placing people in collections. So the agency should make it as easy as possible for you to turn over. Now, the same thing with reports. Your agency should be able to provide to you reports at your fingertips. If you have to call your agency every time you want to report, or every time your accountant comes in or the CFO asks, there's a meeting or a board meeting, and they want reports, and you have to go back to the agency and say, I need this report, I need a status report, I need a spin down report. You should have these things available to you. For one, you should have a little bit of access into their system where they can download their own reports at will. So you should be able to do a little bit of that yourself, some custom things that's understandable, but you want to, one, make sure that there's ease of placements, reports available to you right away, okay? And are they handling you from a customer service standpoint, okay? So let's move down the circle a little bit. longevity, okay? This is one of the few things that, few industries, I should say, that longevity makes a very positive statement. And we all know today that companies that have been around for a while, you have your Sears, your J.C. Penney's of the world, and you have your all these other stores, and you notice that they're going out of business and they're going one by one to Kmart's, okay? But they've been around for years, 60, 70, 80 years, and you're wondering, well, what's happened to them? So longevity is not really a key. Just because they've been around that long doesn't mean that they're surviving or being successful. But with an agency now, and all the good agencies that I know of and that I work with, okay, work on a contingency. They have a vested interest to collect your money, okay? So if they're on a contingency, the longer they've been around, okay, the more professional they've been, okay, and the more they've been able to collect, okay? What's happening is that you will find that if somebody's been around for 5 years or 10 years, okay, maybe not long enough. You take an agency like ours that's been around 50 plus years, okay, we must be doing something right, because to be around that long on a contingency, there's an old statement, you can't fool all the people all the time, okay? So to last that long, work on a contingency, we must be doing a few things. So the agencies that have been around a long time, one are they're evolving, which is a key thing. They're changing with technologies as things come up, all right? And they're working and they're constantly evolving to be able to adapt to everything new that's coming out, okay? You pay for our success, not our failures, when you're dealing with a contingency, okay? So how do we keep that success going? Well, that separates the good agencies from the ones that are not going to make it. Longevity is a key here, okay? And you want to look at that longevity, and we're going to talk about it a little bit further, how some of those longevity things go into the employees also. Okay, so if we get to the 6 o'clock point on the circle, contingency, as we just talked about, okay, that is a key. There are companies out there that will charge upfront fees for certain things, and I'm sure there are certain instances where that has their place. But you want to make sure your agency is working for you. And the way to make sure they're working for you is they should be charging on a contingency, okay? No reason to pay for something upfront, okay? And I look at it this way. If you've already paid a fee for whatever, for letters or for this, upfront, what is their incentive to collect? And think about that. I mean, if the agency is good at what they're doing, okay, they're probably also paying their collectors a draw, meaning that if they get an X number of dollars, but they have to collect so much, and then they can work on a bonus and everything else, okay? So the collectors have a vested interest in collecting the money. The agency has a vested interest in collecting the money. If they got most of their money up front, what is their vested interest to collect it? Okay, how hard are they going to work? You want your agency to work for you, allow them to work for you, also allow them to make some money. We don't beat them up too much, but you want to make sure that they're working for you. And you want to make sure that they're doing all the other things. Just, when you're talking with them, they're working on a contingency, but at the same time, they want to collect as much as they can. To do that, they have to do things like skip trace. Are they doing it weekly, monthly, or daily? Good agencies, ours, for example, we skip trace daily, okay? So what else are they doing? Are they running credit? Can they see up there who's available for different programs that are out there? How much are they working for you while they're on that contingency, okay? So a key, again, most of the agencies out there that I've ever dealt with, I work on a contingency. You pay for their success, not their failures. That's a big key. They have a vested interest in collecting your money. Okay, their specialty. Well, and I talked a little bit about this before, about conversations being longer in the healthcare. And here's where this comes into effect with their specialized. Want to make sure that your agency, if they're going to collect your medical debts, okay, healthcare debts, that's their specialty. Now, it doesn't mean that the agency has to spend their entire office, has to collect only medical debts. As long as that division that they have collects medical, and they're big enough in that division to handle you, going back to the organization, as long as they can handle your volume, they may be a huge agency and you're just dealing with the one division that handles healthcare, okay, make sure that's their specialty, okay? You want to make sure that they're involved in the healthcare communities. Groups like the HFMA, the MGMA, Are they companies like us? We're peer reviewed by the HFMA, which was a nice honor bestowed upon us by them after a long vetting process. Okay, that's something you want to look for. So, do the organizations they belong to recognize them as experts in the industry? Do they recognize them as somebody that they would recommend? Okay, because here's the thing about wanting to make sure. Now, some people say a debt is a debt is a debt. Well, that is true in theory. However, if they don't specialize in medical, or if they do, let's say they do, but the person that's collecting your medical debts is also collecting other types of debts, here's what's going to happen. Collector A is calling, on a credit card debt and dialing for dollars and makes 5 or 6 of those calls in a row. Someone becomes on your medical debt. He calls up the patient. Now, you can't turn the switch on and off that fast. Now he's got to listen. The conversation is longer. The person is going to be upset. There's issues like insurance and deductibles and everything else. And it's hard to turn that on and off. Plus, they have to know the nuances of the healthcare industry. Okay, so you want to make sure that your collectors, and you can talk to them, being transparent with your agency, ask them, are my collectors that are assigned to my account going to be collecting any other kind of debt other than healthcare? Ask the question. And you want to make sure that they're collecting healthcare, 99% of what they should do. Now, they can have collectors collect other things, but your accounts, the collectors on your accounts, should be specializing in the healthcare industry. All right. Moving right along, operations, okay? We talked about that, and it's unparalleled with transparency, as you can see, from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock there. Besides the company, okay, that's being experienced in the healthcare industry, you want to make sure also, are the people that are involved in that company, what we call the C-suite people, your CEOs, COOs, CFOs, how long and what is their experience in the healthcare industry, okay? Now, again, they may be around a long time. The agency could be around for 25 years, but there are people there who have never collected health care that they've hired the C-suite to run the organization. That's going to be a problem. If they don't have the expertise in tracking your accounts, working your accounts, understanding Medicare and Medicaid, payments, the insurance process, deductibles, the whole 9 yards, okay, all the nuances. If they're not experienced with it, you're going to have a problem. Because one, if they're not, how are they training their collectors? Are they training them in the art of effective listening? Or are they just used to just dialing for dollars, okay? So that comes into play. The C-suite people are running the organization without an experience in the healthcare industry. How much of that are they going to be giving knowledge back to their collectors? They're not, because they don't have the experience themselves. So again, make sure that besides the organization, the people, the C-suite people in the organization have a good expertise in healthcare, not just collections. All right, and lastly, technology. Okay, now I always say this, will technology ever replace the art of talking to a patient one-on-one? Someday I'm sure it might. Right now and for the near future, I think that's never going to be replaced. And things have not changed over the years, meaning that to effectively get money from a patient or to collect your money, you're going to have to talk to that patient at some point, negotiate, talk, understand them, listen to them. You're going to have to. So I'm not so sure that technology will ever replace that. However, getting to that patient is where technology comes into place, okay? Are they using high-end tools, okay? Are they using the cloud? Are they using analytics? Are they using all sorts of models and systems and dialers to be able to assist? Now you're talking about getting to patients faster, making more calls throughout the day. Are they doing stuff with analytics? Now, what I like to think is that a good agency, besides just collecting your money, should be helping you. I mean, they're an extension of your billing practice, should be helping you with analytics when they sit down with you and do benchmarking as we do, okay? We do a lot of benchmarking for our clients, and the reason being is that we have all this information. So if our clients want to grow and they want to acquire other organizations, other providers, and they want to get into other markets or zip codes, we have all the analytics for them. So I benchmark for them. I tell them how well they're doing in certain areas. What's the income like over there, what you're going to be facing. And if the income is this, I tell you how well we're going to be able to collect. and I can tell you what kind of, people are there. Are they, a 1 or 2 ranked people, meaning that they pay their bills on time, they have a good credit rating, they have good credit scores. Okay, we can do all that. Okay, technology-wise too, helps you become more HIPAA compliant. Okay, so that you can create portals for your clients to be able to talk to their patients back and forth. You can't do it through standard Gmail and Outlook today. It doesn't pass HIPAA. HIPAA's got certain portals that they have, certain criteria. All right, so that's where technology is coming into place. It's the little things behind the scenes, okay, that one gets to the patients faster, more efficiently, and to be able to track it better, that they have more things available to them, okay? And again, if you're going to benchmark for your clients, or if you want your agency to start doing some benchmarking and helping you with your growth and everything else, because they have that information, okay, that's where technology comes into place. Okay, years ago, you couldn't do that. Without Excel, years ago, you really just couldn't put all those fields together and press a button, and I can tell you 5 different things about your accounts as they're coming in, how old they are, where they're located, how well they pay, and what the income level is. Couldn't do that 20 years ago. If you could, it would take too much time and effort. Now I can do it with a few clicks of the mouse. That's all it takes. Okay. Well, to choose the right agency, what we've offered for you for joining us today, you can download our free ebook. It's the ultimate guide to choosing the right collection agency. It's free. I implore you, there's the website to go on to take a look at it and help you out in the future. Now, again, it could be that you're changing agencies. It doesn't have to be the first time you're getting one brand new, but it could be that you're looking to make a change. And, download it. It's free. We're sending out to all the people that attended, and it's something that we want to offer to you. So, and lastly, I want to give everybody a thank you, and please applaud yourselves for sitting through this webinar. I really appreciate it. I hope you got something out of it, and I want to thank you again. And again, when we're all done and you have the dialogue box to the right, you can start putting in your questions if you have them. Okay, please fill out our survey. It's also available to you. You can download it and quickly fill it out and email it to us. If you need it sent to you separately, I'm sure that can be provided. So why don't we open up the questions and answers if we have any, and you can start typing them in.
We don't have any questions so far, but if you want to use the chat box, we'll stay on for a couple of minutes, and if we see some come in, we'll ask them.
I will be available. So I want to thank everybody, and if you have questions, please feel free to start typing them in, and we'll get to them one at a time.
Still don't have any questions. I think Mark asked a question. Didn't you get my question? I did not. You could type it into the chat box if you can find that area, or into the question section as well. Just not seeing it. I'm sorry. Okay. Regarding the law of diminishing returns, he's retyping the question now, so we'll hang on for a minute.
Okay. I can't see it, John, so I'll rely on you to ask the question.
Sure. Okay, regarding the law of diminishing return chart, when was this last updated? What is the source of this information? Which operation hospital does it represent? Also, can we get a copy of this, please? A copy is available in the handout section. You can download our slide package. As far as the chart itself, I think I can answer this one. I believe it's about 3 years old, and it's actually a representative chart. It isn't specific to a set of data to a specific hospital or a physician practice. I don't know if Andy can expand on that at all.
No, you're absolutely right, John. The data hasn't changed, although it's 3 years old. The data is still pretty much intact. Those are still the correct numbers. And again, this was more of a outline of not just one facility. This was a lot of them, and this just goes in general. So again, everybody's individual will obviously differ from this, but this is a global cumulative.
I think that was the only question we have. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't think there's any other questions at this point. One more just came in. How does sending accounts to pre-collections affect hospitals with financial assistance? 501R requires that we notify the patient of financial assistance.
I can answer that. Very simply is that when you're doing your financial assistance, okay, obviously you have to notify them first. You can determine the time at which you put somebody in pre-collections. It does not have to be day one. There are people that use the pre-collections at different points. It depends on what your company determines the difference between a past due account and what we call a account in default or a delinquent account. So if it has to go through your financial assistance first, and whatever amount of time that takes, and then you want to put them into pre-collections, you can do that. However, if you can, depending on your financial assistance that you're talking about, and they're all different out there, you can certainly put somebody into a pre-collect, because even though while they're going through that, because we'll determine it as when we call them that they're working on that, they have an application in, because we're not demanding money. We're not making a demand for money. Most of your pre-collection companies, and while it's in pre-collect, are not demanding money or a time frame to pay. It is a reminder there's a balance outstanding. Do they have any questions? It's a reminder call that there's an outstanding amount. Now, the person on the other might say that they're working on a financial situation, they're filing for some kind of charitable thing or some kind of assistance, and that's fine. It will be noted on the file and sent back to the client. But you can determine, again, when you're sending somebody into pre-collections, and if you have to go through financial assistance first, that's fine. You can do it after that if they're denied. Okay, so you're guided a little bit. There is nothing set in stone when it has to be turned over. Hope I answered it for you as best I could.
We don't appear to have any questions. Charles was happy with that answer. Thank you, Andy. Is there any other questions? We'll hang out for another minute, but I think we're just about wrapped up here. Doesn't appear that anything else is coming in, but as you can see, Andrew's email address is up there. If anything comes up in the meantime or later on, please feel free to email us at any time. We're happy to answer questions or vet anything that you would like. We're available to you.
I appreciate
and I think
it.
that's it.
Thank you, Andrew Hastings, for hosting this for us. Thank you, John, for my assistance. I appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody again for attending. And again, hopefully there's a lot of you still on, so I'm wondering if the chat dialogue, if you're having trouble using it, but please use my email address. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer everybody as best I can. So please, if you want to, just email me your question if you didn't get to it today or if you came up with it after this webinar concludes.
I also want to let everybody know that we will be at the Turning Stone for the fall conference in a couple weeks, so you can always catch us there as well.
John, did you have an update on the CPE credits?
Yeah, CPE credits will be sent out later, either today or this week. So everybody's earned that for today. And Andrew from Region 2 will be sending those out to everybody via email. Thank you again for your participation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.